If you are a professional musician or are in the process of becoming one, you need to understand how everyone gets paid when your music is used. In the US, the Copyright Act of 1976 provides protection for creators during their lifetime plus 70 years. It gives songwriters and musicians automatic ownership of both their songs and their recordings the moment they're created. This means they have the exclusive right to control how their music is reproduced, distributed, performed, and licensed. Basically, a song is split into two kinds of copyright. The performance right belongs to the songwriters and publisher, who own the composition. They receive payment wherever a song is performed in some way. The mechanical right belongs to the record label, who receives income whenever the recording master is reproduced. Think of it this way. The song being played on a guitar, the lyrics and melody, is the composition. But once it is recorded onto a computer, that file becomes the master recording. The master is the actual audio recording that lives on Spotify or Apple Music. It is important to understand the difference between the composition and the master, because there is a whole cast of characters involved in getting royalty payments to you. Let's define who they are. First, and most importantly, the songwriters create the composition. They often sign with a publisher to manage their rights. A traditional publisher takes 50% of the composition income, known as the publisher's share, in exchange for hustling. Their job is to get your song recorded by a famous artist, called getting a cut, or placed in a major movie. If they have the right connections, that 50% cost is worth it. $500,000 is better than 100% of nothing, but some so-called publishers can be shady. If you sign a publishing deal and they don't hustle, you just gave away half your income for nothing. That is why most independent artists start out as their own publisher, keeping 100% of the money until a major offer comes along. The Performing Rights Organization, ASCAP or BMI, collects royalties whenever the composition is performed publicly, whether that's on radio and TV, overhead in a restaurant, or even as telephone hold music. Plus, they collect a tiny amount from streaming. On the other side, you have the artist who performs on the recording. The producer oversees the recording process. The record label generally pays for everything and owns the master. The record label manufactures physical copies of the master and works with the distributor. The distributor ships records to stores, or in the case of digital media, distributors like CDBaby or DistroKid send the master to streaming services. There is also the MLC, the Mechanical Licensing Collective. They pay the songwriters and publisher a tiny amount when the master is streamed. Finally, we have Sound Exchange. They collect digital radio royalties for the artist and label, but they also set aside 5% of that money for a fund managed by the American Federation of Musicians, AFM, to pay session players. Just remember, the left side is the song and the right side is the recording. I know that was a lot of information, so you might want to pause the video here to let things sink in. In the old world, the major label system, the record label was the bank. They fronted the money for everything, the studio time, the videos, the tour support, but that money wasn't income, it was a loan. In the industry, we call collecting on this loan recoupment. The label might give you a royalty rate of 15%. That means for every dollar the song makes, you get 15 cents, but you don't see those 15 cents until you have paid back 100% of the money they spent on you up front, and labels are famous for inflating those expenses, charging you top dollar for packaging, overhead, and breakage. But today, if you are releasing music on CDBaby or DistroKid, you are the label. You have a 100% royalty rate, but that means you have to handle the paperwork. Then there are session players. Say you hire a sax player for a solo. In the major label world, the musicians' union ensures they get residual checks later. In the DIY world, it's usually work for hire. You pay them cash, they sign a waiver, and the transaction is done. They get 0% of the royalties. It seems like no one in their right mind would sign with a record label when the band can keep 100% of the royalties by doing everything themselves. The exception boils down to promotion. A major label has a staff of promotional experts that can, at least in theory, get your music in front of millions. 15% of a massive feast is better than 100% of the breadcrumbs. However, there is no guarantee that signing with a label will result in any promotion at all. It seems the best approach in the beginning might be to self-release. If you can develop a sizable fan base, you would be able to hire a music lawyer who can ensure any contract with a record label will result in significantly more benefits. Then again, if you can do the promotion well enough, there is far more money to be made being your own record label. When you sign up with a distributor, they don't want to deal with 4 different people. They want one contact. We call this the authorized representative or agent. This person acts as the manager of the record label. They provide their social security number or the band's LLC tax ID. They are the one who receives the check. But be careful. If the money goes to your personal bank account, the IRS expects you to pay the taxes on all of it. This is why you need a written band agreement and ideally an LLC. You need to decide who owns the record label. Is it the whole band or just the person doing the work? In a true democracy, the band is the label, but you need to protect yourself. Your contract should include a departure clause. This states that if someone quits the band, they lose their equity in the record company itself. They don't get to vote on the band's future or profit from the next album. However, you still have to pay them for the work they already did. That is where points come in. Points are a percentage of revenue tied to a specific recording. If your drummer plays on album 1, they get points on that album forever, even if they quit the band next year. But because they lost their equity in the label when they quit, they won't get a dime from album 2. This ensures that the people doing the work in the future aren't paying the people who quit in the past. Because the songwriters have created the thing that actually makes money from streaming, etc., it would be expected that they would get more points than band members who simply help with the arrangement. A simple written agreement signed by all the band members can be sufficient. If you are going to be your own record label, you need to know your codes. The ISRC, International Standard Recording Code, is like the social security number for the recording master. You need this number to track streams. The distributor, for example, CDBaby or DistroKid, assigns this code when you register a recording with them. If you switch distributors, you must use the same ISRC. The ISWC, International Standard Musical Work Code, is the ID for the song, the composition. Your performing rights organization, ASCAP or BMI, assigns this code when you register the song with them. You will need to decide which distributor to use. CDBaby charges a one-time fee, but they keep about 9% of the income they receive. You get one big check and handle the payments to other band members yourself. DistroKid charges a yearly subscription and you keep 100%. They can even automate the split to the drummer and other band members. But be careful. If your credit card expires on a subscription service, your music is taken down. Gone. Unless you pay extra for a legacy feature. What if you didn't write the song? What if it's a cover song? The good news is you don't need permission, you just need a license. Your distributor handles this for a small fee, usually about $12 a year. Now before you get excited about 100% royalties, let's talk about real numbers. Not all revenue streams are created equal. On Spotify, a play is worth about 1/3 of a penny. You need about 3,000 streams just to make $10. Apple Music pays better, averaging about 1 penny per stream. That penny goes to the record label. The PRO payment for that same stream is separate and much smaller, usually about 1/10 of a penny. Spotify pays just 1/3 as much as Apple Music, so the PRO revenue there is even less. Why is the label share so much higher on Apple Music? Because Apple doesn't have a free tier. Everyone pays. Spotify has millions of free users, dragging the average down. In the DIY world, you own 100% of the pie, but sometimes that pie is a cupcake. This is why physical sales, vinyl, CDs, and cassettes, are still the lifeblood of the indie artist. Do the math. On Spotify, you need about 4,000 streams to make $13. At a live show, you can sell one single CD for $15. It costs you about $2 to manufacture. That is $13 of pure profit in your pocket instantly. One fan buying a CD is worth 4,000 fans streaming that song one time. I know what you're thinking. Nobody has a CD player anymore. That's fine. Sell them a download card, a QR code, or a USB drive with exclusive content. The format doesn't matter. What matters is moving the transaction away from the streaming platforms and directly to you. However, there is a legal catch regarding cover songs. On streaming, the distributor handles the license, but with physical media, you are the manufacturer. If you record a cover song and press 1,000 CDs, you legally owe the original songwriter a mechanical royalty for every single copy made, whether you sell them or not. Currently, that rate is about 12 cents per song per copy. Finally, there is merchandise. T-shirts, hoodies, stickers. This isn't a royalty, it is straight retail. But it is vital because it is the one place where you keep 100% of the profit with zero middlemen, no distributor fee, no PRO split, no recoupment. But just like the music, make sure your band agreement covers the logo. Who owns the trademark to the band name? If the singer quits, can they sell t-shirts with the band's face on it? Put it in the contract. So how do you actually get paid when your music is used? Pipe 1. Your distributor collects money from Spotify and Apple for the master. It gets paid to the record label. Pipe 2. Your PRO, ASCAP or BMI, collects money for the performance when your song is used on radio or TV, plus a tiny amount when it is streamed. The payment goes to the songwriters. Pipe 3. Sound exchange. In the US, AM/FM radio doesn't pay artists, just songwriters, but digital radio, like Pandora and SiriusXM, do pay the artists. Sound exchange collects that money, but if you don't register, you lose it. And there is another potential leak. Streaming generates a mechanical royalty. It goes to the MLC, the Music Licensing Collective. This is a separate mechanical royalty, often tiny in the hundredths of a penny range. And finally, the golden pipe. Sync licensing. A synchronization license is required when your song is synchronized with images in TV, movies, and video games. This requires the users provide 2 checks, a master use fee for the record label and a sync fee for the songwriter. These checks can range from a few $100s for a small indie film up to $50,000 or more for a major commercial or movie trailer. So, to summarize, if you self-release, you are wearing 5 hats: artist, label, songwriter, publisher, and accountant. It's a lot of work, especially when you do the initial release. If you don't manage to successfully promote your music, it can turn into a lot of effort for next to nothing in return. But if everything goes well, money will magically appear in your checking account for the rest of your life, and your descendants can enjoy a bit of free income for the next 70 years. Wow, what brings you here?
You wanted me to ask people to subscribe?
You should know it's impossible to sit like that.
Now you tell me.
Thanks for watching.
Are you gonna help me up?